Oh, since you've done an astronomy, yeah.
Now Beth's in here.
Okay, so let's see. May is actually pretty like chill, I think, compared to like what's been going on previously. Yeah, so let's see, what do we have here? So on May 4th, we have Pluto going retrograde. Pluto is our outermost planet, and it's technically a dwarf planet, but retrogrades are, like I always say, kind of a time for slowing down and reflecting on things, especially on the themes or like the area of life that the planet corresponds to, right? So when we think about Pluto, we think about death, regeneration, transformation, like things that are even taboo or like scandalous too. And with the outer planets, when they go retrograde, I've noticed that like you do feel it on a personal level, but you also see things happening, usually in like the news or just in the broader collective, right? So, you know, pay attention to those things when they come up. If you see something in the news, right, you might see something Plutonian related, like maybe, you know, like sometimes you see things happen where like a celebrity that's very beloved and they pass away, that sort of stuff, or like maybe there'll be some sort of scandal coming out. There seems to be a lot of those happening recently. So yeah, pay attention to those things. Yeah. And then also obviously you want to look to like your chart and like look to where Pluto is in your chart and like see where that's happening, like the house position that Pluto is going to go retrograde in, and see if you can notice anything in that like particular area, right? Yeah, Megan's always.
My parents made this for me in high school. I know it's in my first house.
Oh, is it?
But I can't remember which one it is.
It's got like a circle at the top, and then it's got like yeah.
Yeah, it's at the 24th degree, and it was retrograde in my chart too when I was born.
It might be familiar territory for you then. Like I've noticed like people usually freak out during like Mercury retrograde or like, you know, like I think Venus retrograde, actually when Venus went retrograde, I was like, oh, like I have this in my natal chart. It doesn't feel that weird. So yeah, like it's retrograde, it's kind of like feels more normal, I think, for people with it born in like with that in their natal chart.
All the planets in my first house were retrograde.
Oh, were they?
Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto.
Huh. Interesting. Pluto retrograde, Jupiter, Saturn retrograde.
Right?
That's quite a lot.
That's a lot. And then I got 2 more over here too. The devil's Mercury, right?
The devil. The devil Mercury. Mercury was retrograde too. Oh, it's a node. It's a node. Okay. It's just a node.
What's the 4th house again?
4th house is home and family and ancestry.
Pluto's in my 4th house.
Yeah. So that's like those like family karma, family trauma, alchemizing those things.
Just a family trauma? Yay!
Yeah.
Okay, bring it on. What we call.
Well, it's just like it offers you that opportunity to reflect on that more, right? And be like, oh, like process it more. Is Pluto was it in your 4th house when you were born? Or right now it's in your 4th house?
Oh, it's from my natal chart.
Yeah, it's in Aquarius, and your 4th house is in Aquarius then.
Is that this funny symbol?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Where's Aquarius for you though? Is that
Fifth house?
fifth house? Okay, yeah. That might be fun then. Maybe some creative pursuits or something. Maybe you'll be cooking up some new sort of like like, you know how you always hold, you're always telling me that you hold those like new like events and stuff. What is this live about?
Sunday. It's next Sunday.
It'll be interesting.
What's going on next Sunday? Oh, you know what's happening next Sunday is the March for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women.
Oh, really? Oh, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that on the coast? Where is that?
Yeah,
Can you send me the details?
Yeah, I will.
Can you send me the
I
details
went
for that?
last year and it was
I'm gonna do it now, otherwise I'll forget.
Yeah, I would like the details for that. I know that there's the Wellness Fest though on
Well, and interesting, what
the
did you
3rd
say?
and the 4th.
Death, taboo, things that are scandalous.
Yeah. And Aquarius is a sign of social justice too, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
That's so great.
Do you know what time it's at?
Yes. One moment. It is at 10, it's from 10 to 2.
10 to 2.
Here, I'll screenshot this and I think I can share. I don't have Facebook on my phone right now, so sharing things is like really wonky.
It's in. Okay, thank you.
I just have to do a screenshot.
People are asking what's the live about. It's about astrology. May month ahead. Remember last time people in my YouTube comment sections are kind of, they can be weird.
I know, I enjoyed last time I logged on and read them, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. That was distracting.
Someone was, is being bisexual a sin? No, it's not a sin. What?
Somebody just read that?
Yeah, in the comments. No, I don't think so. How can love be a sin, you know? And all that. A lot of the stuff in those books is heavily biased, the way that they translate them too, like the old religious texts.
Yeah.
That was also, wasn't that, I think those lines, a lot of those are in the Old Testament anyways, and like Christians don't follow the Old Testament, so it's kind of weird that, anyways, yeah. Enough about the theology though, although I guess like astrology is kind of like in a similar vein of that, right? Because it's like the planets are like supposed to be like gods and stuff, you know, so. May 10th though, we've got Mercury in Taurus. So where's, Mercury's in Aries right now, so then in Taurus it's gonna be, like Mercury in Aries has been, Mercury in Aries is very like impulsive, you know, it's like wanting to like say what's on your mind right away, you know. With Mercury in Aries, there's that like desire to just like speak your thoughts without like thinking them through. That's kind of why with Mercury in Aries, you know, you tend to get into more disagreements or like fights and like just, you know, arguments with people. But then with Mercury in Taurus, it's almost like this opposite energy of like, there's like a slowness to it and there's more groundedness as well, right? There's also like just like this kind of what I like to call with Mercury and Taurus, there's like resiliency of thought. So it's like, it's almost like a good time for like doing like intense like shadow work stuff, because your capacity is like grounded and like expanded with that Taurus energy, right? And when you think about it too, what opposes Taurus, the polar opposite of Taurus is Scorpio, right? So it makes sense, like in Taurus season, that's actually a good time to do those shadow work things, because you have this like stability to be able to like handle it, you know? So that's kind of what I think, especially Mercury too is like the mind and, you know, all of that stuff, right? Good time for therapy too, you know?
We're doing a Reiki training that day.
Oh, are you?
No.
Oh, yeah. It will probably be pretty deep. Yeah,
That's
definitely. But there's also like with Mercury and Taurus, there's almost like an enjoyment of words, and like there's this sense of like savoring conversations, right? Like savoring what people say and having, you know, all that Taurus stuff of like really like wanting to slow things down and like just enjoy things. So I love the Taurus energy, you know, but I'm biased. I'm also Virgo too, so neurotic Virgo. Of course, I love the Taurus energy. You know,
I know. I feel that too. Like the groundedness of Taurus.
yeah, especially because your
It's
chart's got so
it's
much
so
air in it.
air,
It's
yeah.
like all air in your chart. Yeah. Um,
May 10th.
May 10th. Yeah.
How long is Mercury in Taurus for? Do you know?
Mercury usually stays in a sign for like 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks usually. Yeah. So pretty short. Mercury doesn't spend very long in each sign, and then it usually does that little dancey dance sometimes where it goes retrograde. So Mercury, the thing with like the sun, Mercury, and Venus all transit really close together. So like Venus and Mercury are never very far from the sun. Like when you do a birth chart reading, you're never going to find Mercury like in opposition to the sun. It's always going to be close to the sun.
Yeah.
Same with
Yeah,
Venus
that
too.
makes sense.
Yeah, so pretty interesting. And then on May 12th, we have a full moon in Scorpio. At exactly 22 degrees and 13 minutes of Scorpio. So if you have anything at like around the 22 degree mark, you're gonna feel it a lot more.
On which day did you say?
12th, the May 12th.
Let's see. Do we have anything at the time?
Oh, I could have made the May 4th joke earlier on, like when May 4th, Pluto going retrograde. May the 4th be with you, or whatever everyone says.
So if you have any signs that are 22 degrees,
Yeah, if you have any placements like planets around 22 degrees of
what's
Scorpio,
the one that's the circle with the dog in the center?
that's the sun.
Yeah. That's what I was. Okay, that'll be interesting, right?
The circle.
And the
But it
dot
has
in
to
the
be like
center.
in Scorpio. Which one is Scorpio again?
Scorpio is the one that looks like an M, and it's got like a little devil tail.
Yeah, I got nothing. So.
Okay, well that's good for you.
That's fine.
Actually, oh yeah, 'cause this one's ruled by Leo, right? Like.
Well, you have
Circle.
Aquarius placements though, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, so like Aquarius is a fixed sign, so it'll be forming like some kind of like a square to some of those Aquarius placements potentially. If you look for something at the 22 degree, if you've got something at like 22 degrees Aquarius or 22 degrees Leo or Taurus.
Not really.
No? Okay, well, you're probably fine then.
My moon is Scorpio though.
Your moon is in Scorpio?
Yeah, so forget the sun. I was looking at the wrong place.
Yeah, I was like, you're a Gemini. I heard you. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, the moon's in Scorpio at 26 degrees.
Oh yeah, so that's pretty close to your moon. That'll be a lunar return for you, technically. Which you have a lunar return every like 29 and a half days or whatever. You have a lunar return, right? So you have like 13 or 12 to 13 lunar returns in a year, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, like you get some planets, like you have a solar return once a year on your birthday. You have a lunar return every 29 days or so. You've got the Saturn return every like 29 years or
Like
so.
returning to where the moon
Yeah,
is in your
returning to
chart.
where it is in your chart, yeah.
Oh.
So for Jen, that'll
And
be a
The
lunar
degrees,
return.
and there's
So
two
yeah.
sets of degrees. Is it the top set here?
Oh, yeah, let me see. Oh, that's the minutes.
Oh, the minutes, got it. Okay.
So you do actually have placements close to the 22 degree. Like you have 27 degrees of Aquarius, Mercury. 27 degrees of Aquarius. moon at 20 degrees of Leo. So yeah, it would be forming a square to the full moon in Scorpio. So yeah, it's like these ones are like, it says the degree is like the circle, and then the minute is like the apostrophe,
Okay.
you know? So it's like 17 degrees, 26 minutes, 27 degrees, 55 minutes. Yeah.
I see.
It's like this, it's called the sexagesimal system. So it's like 60, it's like in minutes, like 60
minutes.
60 instead of like 100, it's like 60, you know? It's like hours and minutes sort of thing, you know? So it's like a different unit of measurement than most people are used to, and you have to kind of get used to it. Pickles says, "What's up, my friend? Tell your dad I said hi, and I still owe him a beer." Jen missed that. Did you watch that live with Pickles? Pickles hopped in and was like, "I don't like your friends" or something, and I was like, "That's my dad." I was like, "That's not my friend." I was like, "Wow, okay." And then there was someone the last time that was like thought Marina was my mom. So I was like, there's like a reversal here going on. Yeah. So yeah. So with Scorpio though, with the lunar return too, that's like the moon is like starting its next like cycle, right? So it's like, it's almost like a new moon in a way for you, but it's like a full moon. So it's got a little bit of both qualities to it, you know, where it's like, you've got the illumination and the intensity of a full moon with the initiation of a new cycle combined together, sort of, right?
Is that because of the degree mark it's like that?
Yeah, that's because...
So would mine be like that too then, with 20 degrees, or like...
With 20 degrees, well, it's not a return, it would just be forming like a tense aspect, right? Because if it's like a 90 degrees away from it, right? So it's like, that's a square aspect, so it's causing like some tension, like some aggravation, usually. That's what you would say, right? With the aspects, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep learning.
Yeah, usually people get it until you start, and then you start talking about degrees and then aspects, and then people are like, and then it's like math, and then people are like their eyes glaze over, and you're like, okay, never mind. But with Jen, it's like easy because it's like a return, right? So it's like returning to its original place, right? Yeah. So it's like when you think about the division of the chart into one, right? Yeah. It's like that's what a return is. It's like you're dividing the chart into one. So how do you know
when your own return is? Like whenever.
What your own lunar return? So that'll, for you, it'll be whatever your moon sign is in. It'll be like whatever sign when it hits that degree mark of
into Leo.
Yeah.
I see.
So especially if that's like, if there's like a full moon in Leo happening, or like a new moon in Leo happening at that same degree of Leo in your natal chart, or like close to it, that would be like extra intense, right?
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah. But it's like the moon also, but the moon is usually less, it's not necessarily less significant, it's just that you have so many, like the moon returns so many times in a year. Yeah. Like you're gonna, like, you know, like 12 times a year times like how many years you're alive for. That's like a ton, right? Yeah. So it's like you're just used to the lunar cycle, right? It's the most kind of pervasive cycle that there is, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that's actually why it's kind of the most powerful, and it's the most important to pay attention to in a way, because it's like when you notice the moon's cycle, you're noticing the subtlety of it, right?
That makes sense.
Which is like, I think the most powerful, I'd argue, but you know. Oh yeah, Pickles is a Scorpio too, so yeah, that's gonna be fun for you, Pickles. Full moon in Scorpio with a sun in Scorpio, it's gonna be great for you. You're gonna go extra crazy, you know? So yeah, so Scorpio though is all about like illumination. Well, the full moon is all about illumination. So illumination of the Scorpio themes, which is like fears, shadows, like your mental illnesses, your maladaptive coping mechanisms, like your trauma, etc., right? So like all the stuff that you don't like to focus on, you know? And two, I think there's also two, like there's this witch that I follow on TikTok, and she talks a lot about how people talk about shadow work, and like it's like, oh, you're journaling, and like it's like sounds really nice, and she's like, shadow work to me feels like crap. Like I feel like horrible when I'm doing it. Like it's like your shadow is like the thing that makes you like stay up too late, or like do too many substances, or makes you like lash out at people for no reason. Like it's all this like, you know. And so when you get into that space, it's like, oh wow, like this is super intense, right?
Yeah.
But so it's like Scorpio full moons, again, you're illuminating all that with the Scorpio full moon. So Scorpio full moons, especially if you've got Scorpio placements, they always feel like very intense and activating, right? And to me, it's like, it always makes me feel a little bit anxious too. I've got my Mars in Scorpio too, which is that activating principle. So I always feel it like extra when the moon's in Scorpio, right? So if you're like anxious, or you're like kind of reverting to these bad coping mechanisms, you know, these kind of maladaptive ways of behaving, just like pay attention to that, right? And maybe actually spend some time there and like reflect on that, and like just allow yourself to like feel really bad for a day, you know, and like not be like, oh, like let's make light of this type of thing, you know, really like allow yourself that space to kind of like ruminate a bit, you know. Yeah. Also too, again though, with the sun in Taurus, it's Taurus season, right? So there still is that stable base, right? And that's why I think it's so nice to do shadow work when it's Taurus season, right? And it just makes sense with the lunar cycle too, with the moon in Scorpio and the sun in Taurus, right? The full moon happens when they're opposing each other, right? So if you have the sun in Taurus and then the moon in Scorpio, that's the full moon, right? And so you get this polarity of Taurus and Scorpio, right? The really steady, stable base that allows you to like go deep into things, right?
That's really cool.
Yeah. I love how you guys are so like diligent with your notes.
I just absorb it better.
I feel like,
never
yeah.
do it again. It makes it go in a little bit. But this is very important. Like this one, I'm gonna read. I have to make a note to read this again because I think some shit is gonna go down. That feels good, right?
Yeah, it's funny how you can like feel it before it happens. You're like, you're like, oh, I know something's. Usually a couple weeks before something happens, you're like, something is amiss in the energetic sphere, you know, and you don't know quite what it is yet, but yeah. Also, the same day with the full moon, we've got a square happening between Mercury and Pluto, right? So again, Mercury's the mind. It's all of that, like that cognition, like how we think, how we talk, just all those thought patterns. And again, Pluto is kind of like asking us to like go deeper into like some of the more like maybe darker, like maladaptive thoughts that we have, right? And because of that, you know, maybe there's some conflicts arising or like communication difficulties too, right? But it's also, there's a lot of potential to like kind of rewire things, right? Like rewire our thought patterns and maybe have some clarity about something, right?
And if you have like sort of repeating negative thoughts on like replay, this will be a good time to notice it because the mind could be busy with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like really pay attention to like your thought patterns because they might be showing you something like deeper, right?
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about like something I've been working on is like not just like not necessarily worrying so much about if I'm like having negative thoughts or like negative experiences. It's more about expanding your capacity to handle those experiences, right? Like allowing like that sort of like people talk about nervous system regulation, and there's that kind of, for me, it's something I've been working on, is that nervous system capacity, right?
Nice.
It's like, because when you have more capacity, then you notice when you're dysregulated and you're like, why? And you can interrogate why you're dysregulated, right? And actually see what's going on. Because the nervous system and the body is really wise and is trying to tell us stuff all the time. And we don't really like to listen to it, you know? Because it's very uncomfortable to like actually like listen to stuff that's going on, right? But then when you expand your capacity, then it's like, oh, maybe this is what it's trying to tell me, right? Yeah. He's tired. He's like, I'm done. Yeah, you can meditate. Meditate. You're usually looking at your chart so diligently. Like, what have I got
Well, you
on my
pause
chart?
though now, so
I pause.
I don't know what to look for is the problem.
It is hard to look at. It is hard to look at a birth chart when you gotta look at, you gotta, yeah, exactly, like the little symbols.
Yeah.
Well, I also
little
look up
glyphs.
the symbols. Now I've got this on, so I can look at the symbols.
Oh yeah,
at the
you've
same
got
time, so-
what, like Toby's cheat sheet, or is that, yeah?
It's a cheat sheet, but it's not the
Astrological
one. It's not the
cheat
paper
sheet.
one. It's the one online. See all the symbols on.
Yeah, I know, I take that for granted now. It's like I'm really good at like memorizing new things, and so I memorize the symbols super easily, you know. I take it for granted that like people don't
Most
know.
people,
Like
yeah.
most people like look at that and they're like, what is this little random
Yeah, I wish this
symbol?
had a chart in here. I have another one of those kinds of things that does have the chart. in
Oh
it, so,
yeah.
like I'll flip
I think
through
it-
and look, but
I'm not sure if they even have the symbols. They might. They have like, oh, well, they have the signs, but yeah. And they have the like moon and stuff, but yeah. Oh yeah, they have it all. They do. They do in the little beginning. These things are nice. These little like pocket guides. They're not very
Yeah.
expensive and they last the whole year, but they're really good. I really like them. And then on May 18th, we've got Jupiter forming a sextile to Chiron. So Jupiter and Chiron, when you think about Jupiter and Chiron, right? Chiron is like sort of like these feelings of alienation, right? Like feeling like an outcast or like an outsider. Chiron also is kind of infamous for showing us the area of life in which we feel like we've been given the short end of the stick, you know? Sort of like we've got that chip on our shoulder. Like if you've got Chiron in the 4th house, it's like maybe like your family life wasn't that great and you feel like everyone else had like an amazing family life, right? And so you're like kind of self-conscious about your ancestry, right? Like that would be an example of that. And Jupiter is, as we know, the great expander. So it's kind of like expanding that. So it's sort of expanding your wounds and your feelings of alienation, but it's still doing it in a way that's like optimistic almost, right? It's doing it in a way where it's like opening up sort of like abundant opportunities for healing, you know?
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
What date is that?
That was on May 18th. So that's, yeah.
And Chiron is this little symbol?
Looks
It's
like
the,
a cave.
yeah. Or it depends. Sometimes in some charts it looks different. It can look sometimes like a key or like
Yeah, I was
a
gonna say, yeah,
K.
it looks like a key, but it's
Yeah.
it's got a K at the
It
top
depends
of
on the
right?
chart though. Yeah.
I
No,
don't
if
think I have it on here.
yeah, that's what it looks like. It does look like it has a K on top. It's like a circle and a K.
So what am I looking for? Like there it is on my birth chart. What does that mean?
Well, okay, so Chiron's in Aries. Where's your Chiron in your natal chart?
Not Aries.
Not Aries.
Whatever that thing is.
Your Chiron is in, where is it?
Mine's Pisces.
Oh, your Chiron's in the 10th house. I remember this because I did your chart, but it's not listed. I'll send you another chart after,
Nice, okay.
and I can send you it with your Chiron placement. But your Chiron is in the 10th house in Aries. Oh, right. You're having a Chiron. Wait, how old are you? Are you 51?
Yeah.
52. Okay, yeah.
When you
So
just did
you
the
would
chart,
have
it was the
just,
Chiron return.
yeah. So you're just probably coming up at like the kind of end of your Chiron return, you know? It's like
Sweet.
you're having like there might be some lingering stuff going on, but it's like, yeah, it's like more integrated now, you know?
And 10th house is
10th house is the house of career.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
like
yes,
the
yes,
10th house is kind of like your true calling in life, right? Like we've talked about for you, it's like kind of like how you feel like almost like you came into like this spiritual space and you found it kind of later in life and you're kind of, you know, envious because like some people find that earlier, right? So for you, it's kind of like, oh, well, why didn't I find this earlier?
yes.
But it's like,
It was
I
all
mean,
those
you've got your
things.
Chiron there, so
Yeah.
it was supposed to take you a little while.
Late bloomer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mine's in the 8th house.
Oh.
And I remember you saying it was a nasty placement. You were like, I'm not gonna lie, that's a nasty placement. It's like square a bunch of things.
What's the 8th house?
The 8th house is the house of death.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the spiritual houses in astrology. It's the house of kind of, it's said to be, it's related to like it, when you think about it, it's opposite the 2nd house. So it's also a house of things in a way, right? Because the 2nd house is your house of possessions, but it's like your material possessions. So the 8th house is almost the opposite of that. It's like the house of spiritual possessions. It represents like maybe things that get passed on to us amidst death, right? Like when people pass away, they give us, you know, all their stuff, right? They give us all their, and that can be in a literal sense. They're giving us their stuff as in they're giving, maybe you're getting an inheritance or like you're getting their house or like they're trying to give you their like little knickknacks and stuff, right? Like when people pass away, you've got like usually a bunch of like stuff that you just, you're like, do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? But then there's also the baggage that can get passed on in metaphorical sense of like spiritual baggage too, right? Like when people pass on, maybe there's things that they didn't integrate fully or that kind of got like weren't fully like realized throughout their life, right? And that can kind of come through in the 8th house sometimes. So it's a little bit of an abstract place, you know? But Chiron there to me maybe would suggest that there could be like some sense of feeling cut off from that, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit of a strange placement to have, but it could also be.
It's also my only Earth, I think. I remember you saying that. It's the only sort of Earth in the chart or placement in like one of those Earth signs was my Chiron.
Yeah, that could be also too. I know some people with Chiron who have had like a literal, like traumatic, like their like sibling dies at like a young age from like an accident or something, and so they've got Chiron in the 8th house, and it's like trauma from someone passing away.
Yeah.
Right?
Not for me, really, yet. But okay, that'll be something to look at.
Or something to keep in mind for the future.
Yeah.
Because sometimes stuff in the natal chart can take a while to manifest, right? Like what we saw with like, you know, like when I did your kids' charts, you were like, oh, I don't really relate to this. And then a few months later, you're like messaging me like, oh my God, it came true. Like all this stuff you said is true. And I was like, yeah, like at first, I remember when I first did that chart, you were like, yeah, no, it doesn't really fit. Like, it doesn't make sense. And then like a little while later, you're like, never mind.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's right there. So yeah.
Okay. Death. Lots of
Death.
death.
Yeah. Well, not real. Like your chart, the other stuff is very lively.
No, the first thing, we started the month, it was like death.
Oh yeah, for the whole month. Yeah, there's lots of those Plutonian themes this month. Yeah, it's like all.
Yeah.
And Chiron and Pluto are very much related too. Like they're very similar in a lot of ways, you know? Chiron and Pluto. Yeah. And then on May 24th, this is going to be kind of fun. Kind of fun, kind of not fun. It depends on how you look at it. We've got Saturn entering Aries. So Saturn is like, you know, in astrology, we kind of talk about these inner planets, which is like, we've got like the sun and the moon, and then we've got Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and those guys are all kind of moving pretty quickly. And so when you do a natal chart, it's like those guys are like the main guys that you're looking at, those like 5 guys, right? And then you get Jupiter and Saturn, which are kind of like this sort of in-between space between like the individual and the collective, right? So they're considered like the social planets, right? And so Saturn is kind of like, it does move fairly slowly. Like it takes usually 2.5 years per each sign, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of straddling that border between like, you might feel it, but you might also see it on a wider collective level, right? Because it's kind of on the in-between, right? And Saturn is all about like themes related to duty, responsibility, maturity, mastery, right? So like something that you like work really hard for and you become like a master of it. And so Saturn has spent a lot of time in Pisces. You have your Saturn in Pisces,
Yeah,
don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just had a Saturn return because of that.
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
What happened?
I don't know, you tell me.
I don't know.
Saturn is like, Saturn in Pisces, right? Saturn seeks to clarify our spiritual goals and responsibilities, right? So there's a lot of, because Pisces is all about the spirituality and the transcendence and like becoming part of like the greater whole and being of service to humanity, right? So that's kind of like you, sort of, which I feel like that makes sense a lot. Yeah, right? Like with his like natal Saturn in Pisces, right? And there's a lot of like self-sacrifice with Saturn and Pisces, right? Like you're kind of like, you're just giving a lot with Saturn and Pisces, right? It's like humanity, like it's humanity over the individual. And so when Saturn goes into Aries, there's a bit of a difference there, right? Because Aries is like all about the individual. It's all about the self, right? So Saturn and Pisces, you've got service to humanity, responsibility for humanity, to like responsibility to oneself, right? So there's like this individual tone to like Saturn entering into Aries. And it's a bit more selfish in that way. That's why Saturn in like the sort of like, if you go into the Hellenistic, the ancient Hellenistic tradition of astrology, which is like really old, and that's kind of where our modern Western tradition originated from. It was like the ancient Greek sort of tradition. Saturn was said to be in its fall in the sign of Aries. So it's not necessarily functioning in a way that's like quote unquote good, right? Because the Hellenistic system is like more dualistic system. It's like there's planets are in like a good spot in certain areas and a bad spot in other areas. And like the modern astrological tradition, it's not really like that. But that's just something to keep in mind, right? So there's going to be a lot of focus on our goals and aspirations as opposed to this kind of mysterious and spiritual greater good, right? It's like very much like me, like what do I want? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to overcome, right? This sort of thing, right? There's also just like more energy though, because, and that's like a big theme for this entire year, is that there's just way more drive and there's more like a speeding up of things, because we've got now Saturn switching into Aries, right? We also just recently got Neptune switching into Aries. We got Pluto switching into Aquarius. And then we're also getting Uranus switching into Gemini, right? So the thing is, all these planets, like these outer planets and Saturn, which is also like, you know, again, straddling the border between like outer planet, inner planet, right? They're all switching from this negative polarity, which is the water signs and the earth signs, into a positive polarity, which is the air signs and the fire signs. So if you, or like some people would say masculine, feminine, right? So they're going from this feminine, slow moving energy to like this masculine, really extroverted energy. So there's this quickening up that we're going to be seeing, right? Where things are like picking up pace a bit, right? Like we're getting busier, like just a lot of stuff is happening all of a sudden, you know? And it's like this entire year is kind of like, there's like a buildup towards that, you know?
Well, and what's interesting in the industry I work in too is like with what's happening in the global economy, like you feel it. There is like a quickening up. There is like a harder working sort of like have to be at your best, disciplined kind of thing happening. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. It's almost like the cosmic speed limit. I would say it's like the cosmic speed limit is kind of like increasing, you know?
Like it feels like there's a fire lit under everyone right now, at least in the business world that I'm in.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But I think it's also, I mean, the thing is, I also only work with like, in my like practice, like I only work with like sort of like feminine leaning like deities and like figures. And it's like, in a way, like the masculine is actually an expression of the feminine, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it all originated with like the feminine, like the idea of like a void of darkness. And, you know, even in like the like Bible, like Yahweh said like, let there be light, which implies that there was a darkness before the light, right? So it's like, there's that integration of the darkness and the light that you see with that, you know? I think about it even in a biological standpoint, actually, when you look at like fetal development, the fetus in utero, it actually starts off as female. And it has to, there's like this certain biological process that has to, with the hormones and stuff that has to happen for the fetus to become male. So it's super interesting. So when I look at it like that, I'm like, it's like, I don't know, it's just parallels. I'm like, wow, that's crazy that it happens like that. And I've been also too, like, this is just like more personal anecdotes, but I've been really drawn to like the Sumerian, like really ancient stuff. Like there's this goddess Inanna, and she's like this sort of like, she's like the queen of like heaven, and like she's basically the queen of everything. And like in the midst, it's like so interesting. A lot of the stuff that we've done with Anusha is like super, like it's like almost like built into the mythology. I'll send you like a podcast episode that I was listening to. It's like so cool. I was like, wow, this is like exactly what like the stuff that Anusha is always talking about. I'm like, this is so interesting. But yeah, and she's like, I don't know, she's just like the like sort of researcher I was watching was explaining it. She was like called Inanna, she who wants all the things, right? Inanna. Inanna. Inanna, I think, yeah. But yeah, so she's super cool, yeah. Yeah. And she's also like, it's interesting too, like she was also like, but she occupied this space too of like between the masculine and the feminine, like she could kind of shift forms. Like she had, like there's some photos of her like images where she's got like a beard and stuff, and she was said to be able to like turn people from like male to female, and it's super cool. Like a lot of the priests in her temple were actually like non-binary. Like that's the like obviously it's not the same terminology because like things change, but it's like super interesting, like all of that mythology. Super cool. I love it. But yeah. And then on May 25th, we've got also Mercury entering into Gemini. So this is like Mercury, when is it? It goes into Taurus on like May 10th. So it's not actually there for very long, right? And then it enters into Gemini on May 25th, right? So Mercury in Gemini Mercury rules over Gemini, you know? So Mercury, when it's in Gemini, it knows exactly what it's doing when it's in Gemini, right? It's very sociable. The mind is very quick, like thoughts are very fluid. It's very like friendly. So it's like a good time for just like doing social things, right? Like going out there and like having fun and like talking to people, you know. Still with Gemini though, there's always like this ADHD quality where it's like kind of like, there's like this high level of like nervous mental energy where you're like zipping from like thing to thing and you're like, right? There's also like this tendency to like intellectualize everything too. Like even your emotions become like this intellectual project, and we want to like intellectualize things and like think about how we feel and all of this stuff, right? Which can be great, but it's also like, remember to do the embodiment too, right? Like don't just get caught up in like, you know? Yeah. It's like very much like I say Mercury and that like Gemini energy is very much like modern, characteristic of like modern therapeutic techniques where it's like all like talk therapy and it's like, let's restructure our thoughts, right? And then you're like, with me, with like being neurodivergent, I'm like, I like don't really like, people are like, oh, like your thoughts influence how you feel, and then, you know, all this stuff happens. And it's like, for me, it's like my thoughts and my feelings are like one thing. I think I've talked about this before. It's like I feel what I think. Like it's like the same thing. So it's like, how do I restructure that? You know? They're like, you got to restructure you got to like have like this cognitive restructuring, and then it like influences how you feel. And I'm like, but it's like automatic for me. Like it's so quick, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, so it's like the embodiment. And then when I figured out, oh, like yoga actually